Welcome, Amy, Techno Samurai Amy, and Robo Rory, to episode 398 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 7th of April, 2021, and featuring The Girl Who Waited, written by Tom McRae and starring Matt Smith as the Doctor, Karen Gillan as Amy Pond, and Arthur Darvill as Rory Williams.
Also, Karen Gillan is other Amy Pond.
I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and if it was snowing 8 days ago, why was it almost 90 today? With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Yeah, it's raining here.
Mad Matt Winchell.
Yep, storming, and I've got Mountain Dew.
And Thomas Fireheart.
I'm seeing double, 4 Amy's.
Can't close my eyes from that double vision.
See, that would have been great for a bump, although we'd probably have gotten.
We would have gotten our video blocked. Yeah.
I mean, it would have had to be a cover.
Yeah, like just as we were starting, I was thinking, oh my god, this would have been another opportunity for the I think I'm a clone now.
Oh, that would have worked too, yeah.
Speaking of Robo Rory, I forgot to check if he gets killed or not.
No.
Doesn't seem to be, no.
Oh, he's the one Rory that survives.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the last thing we saw of him, he was handing Rory the glasses. That was about his last action in the episode. So how's everybody's week been?
Not too bad. My headset that I normally use has been going to shit, and finally, like, the top bit snapped. I mean, it can still work, but it snapped, so I was like,
Uh-oh.
Headsets that much, but I use their controllers all the time, and I have a ton of issues with their cordless mice because it doesn't seem to matter which one I use. Suddenly the laser on the mouse that actually tracks the mouse movement just abruptly stops. I have to take out the battery and put it back in before I can get it to work.
I will say that the thing that I like about this is when I was taking it out, I realized, and it didn't even occur to me at first, it's like I pull out the headset and then I pull out this other thing and I'm like, what the fuck is, oh, it's the mic. Like you've actually got to plug the mic into it rather than the mic that comes with it being a thing. And I'm like, oh, sweet. I can just never use this mic then because I've already got a mic on its own that I'm using.
This last set of Plantronics is great because I tend to be horribly abusive on headphones. And these the speakers actually snap off the base frame, and you can just snap them back on, which is great because my previous ones that would break before the headphones. So,
well, yeah, the one thing that it didn't even occur to me until it showed up was like, oh my god, there's like an elastic strap as part of the headband thing, so it's like it just sort of conforms to my head, and I'm like, oh, thank god.
Yep, that's actually any high quality headphones will do that. Yeah. These have that too. So Erin got her COVID shot on Thursday. And that was the most amazing thing I've seen. It's the closest I've ever seen to how dystopian governments work, except this was actually functional.
So how functional vaccine delivery systems in other countries have worked?
Well, let me tell you about this.
Okay.
So Heron's appointment was at noon. We show up about 10, 15 minutes prior. What they do is they have us pull into this parking lot, and they parking lot to the other. So there's like 20, 30 cars in each row.
Okay.
And they just start lining up, and it's like one row of cars, another row of cars, space. One row of cars, another row of cars, space. So that they can have people walk back and forth. We get in row 2 because we got there early enough. Over the next 10 minutes, I'm sitting there with my engine off as row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6 gets started. I'm like, wow. So about 5 minutes before noon, they let row 1 in to, I guess you could call it the inner line. And then they start letting us in too, just to fill in the leftovers. And then we're in there, we get to stop and we get to wait some more. At noon, apparently the doors open, the cars start going in, they split us into 2 rows that go into the building, and then that row splits up into 3 additional stations where you get your treatment. All in all, it said, you may have to wait up to 90 minutes. We were out of there by 12:15.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you do the 15 minutes waiting?
Yes, that was
Okay.
12. That was to 12:30.
Okay.
But we were out of the actual processing by 12:15. Technically, mine was even faster, but mine didn't have that level of quantity of people that could go through
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, like the place I did, they were doing like probably one person every 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Which they theoretically could have done more, but they probably didn't want 5 people sitting in the waiting area.
Mm.
Well, this is, you don't even leave your cars. These are
Right.
these are
Yeah,
driving.
that definitely sounds like it's higher capacity either way.
Mm-hmm. But the fact is that they had 6 stations, and that was before it was reported in the news this week that they're getting 29 additional people from FEMA to increase the capacity. So they are talking about being able to treat 1,400 people a day.
Nice.
Going through that. And I'm just like, holy shit. And this is, I refer to it as assembly line medicine. And that's what it feels like. Go through, check your thing, get your shot, go. It's like
Yep.
process.
When everyone's getting the same shot and you don't need a patient history to figure out what shot to give them.
Mm-hmm.
So how my week's going is that I still have 10 hours of grading I need to do in the next 72 hours because I have been doing other grad school stuff all week. It has been quite a busy time just because all of the stuff that like the once a semester presentations and things like that, somehow all of mine, just by completely independent decisions that were not double checked against one another, all ended up happening within about a week of each other. So that's what I'm halfway through right now.
Grading. So are you doing like TA stuff?
Yeah. So in order to earn my stipend that pays for my rent and such, I'm supposed to do 15 hours of TA work a week. Which for this semester, most of that is grading stats tests.
Fun.
Yeah, I had to work out a system because the answer keys they gave were very much not ADD friendly. So just even like looking at something and then scrolling down to another page and looking for something else and then trying to figure out if something was close enough, the amount of task switching involved there would cause each test that I was grading to take me over an hour the way they started it. Eventually, I realized if I just put everything into an Excel sheet, it costs me like an hour at the beginning of the week, but it saves me like 10 hours by the time I'm done grading.
And you've just figured out, shortcuts to being a teacher.
Yeah, I'm sure that's something I'm going to need to use in the future. That's true.
Oh, the rain just kicked in again.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, just as you finish talking, all of a sudden I just hear this gradual trickling sound, and it keeps getting louder until it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely rain.
So you can't see clearly now, right now.
Yeah, the rain's come back.
Well, at least your mic's not picking it up, so.
Well, I'm sure it's picking it up, but it's not hitting the point where it'll activate my mic for you guys to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I can see clearly now. My brain is gone. Oh.
And because of what we were talking about before, as you sang that, like my brain translated that to Malcolm McDowell's singing voice.
It actually was a quote on a Cyberpunk Netrunner card. I think it was called.
Come on, Discord.
Nope.
We just.
Sorry,
Right.
that's like
He's
the
back.
4th time that Discord has hung on me.
Ah,
So I'm just forced to restart. I think it's just the call.
gotcha.
Because nothing else is being affected by it. It's just literally the call. It's like, okay, we're just going to restart this really quick.
Mm-hmm.
But no, the original Netrunner cards were done by Wizards of the Coast, so it's the
Oh,
same
yep.
people.
So
that
same
did
people.
that. Yep. But yeah, it's just one of those things that back in the 90s when Bob and I were playing Netrunner, I would play that card and then I would just snicker for like, a couple of minutes. So are we ready to move on?
I was about to say, as for me on my end, weather's been
okay,
warm
go ahead.
enough that the window's been open for like 2 days straight now. Yeah, I think so. Since at least yesterday.
I had to kick my fan up to at least medium. So
Like very early yesterday. Trying to think what else is going on. My single player game has gotten better this week because before the 4 hours I streamed yesterday, I finally got the mods to work. Helps when it helps when Discord doesn't want to keep hanging up on me. Jeez. Also helps when they're more straightforward in their instructions for the mod. Made some more headway in the game I'm playing off streams, and I guess kind of waiting to see how things go for the upcoming streams. I think, yeah, tomorrow we got the Borderlands. Hopefully we get done with the side quests. How many side quests do we still have? I think it's like 4.
We'll see. I know in the next couple of days I have to do some stuff on Lotro because I need to have that ready for our streaming on Sunday.
Oh.
And yeah, I need to do some stuff in Lorien to get access to the main area. But
that's right. There's some sort of Lorien stuff that we have to do, don't we? Oh, for Frau's sake, Discord. What is your issue tonight?
So that you can get to the main area. It's
What
freezing again?
It's like the second time now since I came back to the call, and it's only Discord. It's just literally just call.
Did you ever clear your Discord cache?
I've done just about every other step on the way there.
Well, that would be something to do.
Yeah, it's starting to look like it's going to be the next step, and then we'll see if it actually fixes anything at all. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Are we ready to move on then?
Yes, before we get hung again.
All right. So, on tonight's show, we've got birthdays. We've got no news. We've got one piece of geek talk. Apparently, Bill wants to rant at us for a moment. Then we've got our episode summary, our review, our final thoughts, and our. Well, first is the birthday of Sidney Newman. He was the exec producer and show creator for 1963. Would have been 104, but he died in 1997 at the age of 80. Next, on April 2nd, is Robert Holmes, a writer from 1968 to 73, and again from 1978 to 86, and in that interim, he was script editor. He would have been 95, but died in 1986 at the age of 60. He was still writing for Doctor Who at the time.
Mm-hmm.
April 3rd sees the birthday of Peter Howell. He did incidental music for Revenge of the Cybermen in 1975 and was the title music arranger from 1980 to 1985, aka the guitar version of the Doctor Who theme. He turned 73. And finally, on the 6th, Mark Strickson, who played Vislar Turlo from 83 to 84, turned 62. So, happy birthday, Sydney, Robert, Peter, and Mark. Moving forward into Geek Talk.
And it's funny because I didn't think I'd have any this week, but then I just randomly decided, well, this game has an interesting, simplistic art style, and
Okay, so
it's
it
like
sounds like it's the
under
right one.
and it's under $2, so fuck it, why not? And yeah, it's interesting. It's like it's a like a fun little puzzle game. Like you just it's kind of funny because you intentionally to get the game going, you actually have to intentionally the fuck that the character you're playing as was in. You just have to like I think it was like at least for the Switch version, it was like mashing the A button or something, and it would just like crash the crash the craft. And the idea is just you're doing all these puzzles to try and not so much like fix yours so much as get a new one. There's others where I was like, you know what? Like I tried to get as far as I could without like cheating essentially using a walkthrough. But there was like a couple where I'm just like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing. Because they have to be done in a very specific order. So I'm just running supposed to do next. After some of them, and it's like, oh, okay. Like sometimes I just read it like just enough to be like, okay, I've got to go there next, or enough to be like, oh, you've got to hit this thing, okay. Um, and then like figure out the rest of my own or whatever. But yeah, it's like it is a fun little game. If you can get it for cheap, I would honestly check it out. The music was very pleasant from what I heard because it was funny because I was playing it doing while I was listening to Critical Role, so I didn't entirely take in the music, but it is a good score from what I can recall of it. But yeah, I'd say it's worth checking out. It should be. I don't know how cheap it was normally, but yeah, I got it for like under $2, and I was like, "Yep." For how short this would have been if I'd have just been able to go through and doing it, like you could probably finish if you get the hang of it quickly enough, you could probably get this finished in like an hour or two. So it's a very short little game, but it is fun for the short time that you have with it. And I think that's about all I've got.
Okay.
All right, so that's our geek talk. Now, Bill has something to say. I'm going to hand him my soapbox.
Okay, so I'll start off by saying I don't think it's a spoiler to indicate that The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is about the legacy of Captain America. And very early
No.
on, right. I'd say that because I don't want to be accused of spoiling the relatively new show that's just started. But very early on, they introduce a character that I need to talk about. Fans of the Marvel Comics will know John Walker as U.S. Agent, who is essentially introduced as a wannabe Captain America, who's kind of a dick. And in many,
Or if you're really, really old, you might recognize him as the second super patriot.
Whereas I was introduced to him as the gray guy in the West Coast Avengers who kind of looks like Captain America, but people don't really like all that much.
Mm-hmm.
So this character appears in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, played by actor Wyatt Russell. And he does a good job in portraying a smarmy dude bro who is kind of a jackass. However, apparently the fandom doesn't understand acting. I think we need to play that Ian Russell clip. I forget what show it's from, where he explains, I'm not a wizard. I'm pretending to be a wizard. Because what the fandom has done is they took personal offense to Wyatt Russell putting on a Captain America suit and then acting like a jackass. And he's been getting death threats. And on top of that,
fuck's sake.
a Twitter account that people thought was the official account, it turned out just to be a fan account, which is arguably worse, ended up being deactivated because of the constant harassment. So I don't know who I need to talk to or what needs to be said, but do not send death threats to people for being good actors, for doing their job and portraying unlikable characters as unlikable, which is especially hypocritical because if he looked like Tom Hiddleston, half of the people out there sending him death threats would probably want to fuck him instead. So just understand that there's a difference between fiction and reality and between actors and characters. And if you can't understand that distinction, maybe you're not old enough to be watching this show or most shows.
The problem is that it's not even about age. It's literally about maturity, and these people are nuts.
The thing is, this has been going on for years.
This has been going on for decades. This has been happening since Little House on the frickin' Prairie.
I know Colin Baker, oddly enough, putting this on topic, before he was the Doctor, used to be a villain in a soap opera called The Brothers. And he was a real son of a bitch in there. And he would talk for years at conventions about before he became the Doctor, he would walk down the street and little old ladies would come up and smack him with their bags or their umbrellas.
I'm sure if the internet existed when he became the Doctor, there would have just been a nonstop slew of harassment about how he ruined the Doctor.
Well, actually, it didn't stop that anyway, but yes.
Yeah.
The thing I was referencing is Little House on the Prairie used to have a little blonde girl who was like the main antagonist for the main character. And apparently that little girl back in the day used to also get a lot of threats in the mail and stuff.
Yeah, you used to.
Wow.
Yeah, before there was threatening
A little
emails and
girl in the
online.
60s, for crying out loud.
Yeah, they
I mean,
used to
hell.
send threatening letters by post.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the main difference now is it's so easy to send it. It's so much easier to overwhelm somebody with the quantity of the bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, also the
Um,
fact that they used to have somebody hire somebody to filter your mail.
Hmm. Which
Mm.
some people can do that, some people can't, and some people like, oh, I want to be connected with my fans, I want to be friendly, and then they open up Twitter and it's just vomited
Well,
bile.
Twitter is evil by its nature. It's home to the worst of the worst. It really is. It's where trolls live.
It's literally why I made a second account, so I can just live my life on another account half the time without having to deal with a single troll.
like
Let's talk about video games and movie stuff and have fun.
it's like I don't even know if God, what was the actor's name? Was it Jack Gleason? Am I thinking of? I forget. The guy who played Joffrey. Like, I'm trying
Yeah,
to
that's
think if
Jack
he dealt
Gleason.
with that.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think if he dealt with that kind of shit or not because
That's
it
Joffrey from Game of
surprised me.
Thrones, yeah?
I think I heard he might have.
Yeah,
Yeah, he dealt with it a lot. Apparently, he was highly relieved when his character died.
And
Yeah.
actually, for that matter, Jake Lloyd, because he was written as a cringy 9-year-old Anakin Skywalker, also got abused for years about that. And
Mhm.
also,
Oh, yeah. That
Jar Jar
Oh,
Binks
yeah,
actor.
the Jar Jar Binks actor. It was not until like the last 5 years or so that things have finally turned around for him pretty well.
And yeah, that's Ahmed Best. I couldn't remember his full name a
Yeah,
minute
yeah.
ago. It's a
I
short
think-
name. I just slipped my tongue.
I think the actor that played Draco Malfoy had that originally until he grew up and got hot.
Right, I was gonna say,
Yeah, I think he suffered that a little bit too for a while.
it might have been balanced out with sexual harassment for him.
Yeah.
Oh, and
I
the
think
the actors for Kylo Ren and Rey are still getting tons of crazies
Mhm.
after them complaining about whenever they have another significant other that isn't the other one.
Mhm.
The Reylos are nut bars.
I'm not. They may have had to stop doing Kylo Ren. I think they had to stop letting Kylo Ren suit actors be by themselves at Disney because they were getting sexually harassed by fans.
That wouldn't surprise me either, because
I
again,
know-
nut bars.
I know they've had to do that with a few woman characters as well, and also with Jack Sparrow actors.
Yeah, because people are insane. I'm very much depressed with the state of the universe and fandom in general. That this kind of thing happens. But
Mhm.
like I said,
Can I get on my
harassing-
soapbox about this actually for a very brief moment?
Okay.
you want to hand him
My
the
issue with the fandom is not the fandom itself. It's these people that call themselves stans.
Which, considering Stan was a term invented to describe a toxic fan, that
Well,
Kinda makes
it
sense.
doesn't initially, or at least not anymore. It's not what it's supposed to be. But where it comes from is an Eminem song where a guy is so obsessed that he murders himself. Yeah,
I was gonna say the original Stan killed himself and his girlfriend because
his
Eminem
pregnant
wouldn't answer
girlfriend,
his
I might add.
emails or his letters. Yeah.
Yeah, because he
Yeah.
didn't answer his letters and he didn't know that he had skipped them in a crowd. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, there's
I think there's just the fact that they named themselves that is just a warning sign,
you
Yeah,
know,
like that.
and people take them way too seriously.
there's a reason in Japan the term otaku has a negative connotation.
Mhm.
It's because people get obsessed too much.
Mm-hmm. There's a time and place for everything, people.
Mystery Science Theater says it best. It's just a show. You should really just relax. Let them tell the goddamn story. And remember that these people do this role, check out, and become normal people.
Right?
Yeah, like that's the thing with me. Like I was waiting for Joffrey to die and was like cheering when he did, but I didn't direct any of that at the fucking actor.
Right.
Like the more you hate the character in that case, that means the actor's doing a better job and they
Yeah.
deserve even more of your respect.
For as
Correct.
much
Yeah.
trouble as I have for what the characters did in the sequel Star Wars trilogy, I don't blame any of the actors for what they had to do. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
literally their script.
I hate Severus Snape as a character. He's a fucking bastard.
Mhm.
I loved Alan Rickman.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
The
Alan
man
Rickman's an
was
amazing
a
man.
talented gem, and we are very much diminished by his absence.
Hmm.
Amen.
Especially because that means they can't do the Galaxy Quest series that they were going to do.
I heard
My
they're still
heart.
planning a sequel.
It's kind of hard to do without like two of the main
They're gonna
characters.
have to skip forward time, and they're gonna have to basically make an excuse as to why his actor
We're
is
gonna have to.
dead
Mhm.
They're have to make like Galaxy Quest: The Next Generation.
or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
As
But-
long as they don't do a CGI clone.
There are several actors.
Oh, God.
There are several characters I love to hate. They are absolute villains, and when they finally get their comeuppance, you're just like, yes. But
Yeah.
when that actor gets done playing that person, he becomes a normal person and maybe the hero in the next show I watch, and I will love him for it.
Hmm.
So, yeah, remember, these people are basically hired to play a role. That
Mhm.
role can be a great hero, or it can be a complete asshat.
Hmm.
And there's some actors that are really good at playing asshats. They make a career out of it.
As a matter of fact, I believe one of those heroes becoming a villain is something that made Randy go, "Oh my god!" not too long ago. Purple Man,
there's
anybody?
a lot. What's that?
Purple Man, anybody?
Oh God, yeah. Well, no, I actually knew Tennant had that capability because I'd seen him in this movie he did prior to Doctor Who, where he played this creepy stalker guy, and I'm just like, oh wow, that's fucking dark. But still, but that's another example.
Mm-hmm.
David Tennant played the most god awful villain in Purple Man.
Yeah, but he's still one of the best doctors ever.
Yes.
At least
He's still
guaranteed
a
top
person.
5 on anybody's list.
Mm-hmm. So remember, they're actors. They're required to act. Sometimes the person acting is not good. That doesn't mean you should punish them for playing this not good person, because somebody has to.
Otherwise, it's going to be a very boring show, and you're all going to tune out.
Correct. And yes, the entire purpose of this character that Wyatt Russell is playing is the fact that he is shitty Captain America.
Yeah. He's supposed to piss you off and not to be liked.
Yeah.
Hopefully, by the end of the series, he's no longer in that role.
Either he's no longer the replacement Captain America, or he's had enough of a character revolution that he suddenly comes back around to actually being a decent character. Who knows? We'll see.
Well, judging by the comic books, he doesn't. But he just
Judging by the comic books, he doesn't, so he might just quit the Captain America role then.
And yet he does become an Avenger. I'm curious how that arc actually took place, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, another story.
He does become an Avenger, but he becomes the Avenger nobody likes.
Like Hawkman. Hawkeye. I don't know why I said
I was gonna
Hawkman.
say, wait a
Well,
minute.
Hey,
Hawkeye.
Are we comparing Justice League, or are we actually meaning Hawkeye and
I was
totally
actually going
botched
to
this?
say Dr. Pym, but yeah.
Dr. Pym, but in the MCU, it's not going to be anyway, so whatever.
But yeah, there you go. You just got to remember that these people are actors, not actual assholes. And if they are, it's because they're supposed to be. Wait for the story to finish.
Oh, so I guess that's brings it right to me again, huh?
Well, I was going to say that, people are, just punishing actors for like defending their roles too.
Right.
We were just talking prior to this about the new Space Jam movie that's supposed to come out.
Mm-hmm.
In it, Gabriel Iglesias, the comedian, is playing Speedy Gonzalez.
Fantastic. 10 out of 10 choice.
Yes, it's a perfect choice.
Yeah.
Yet people are bashing the character for being this, Mexican stereotype.
Oh,
I
for
heard he was
hell's sake.
I heard Speedy was popular in Mexico.
Yes.
He is.
He
The
is.
Mexicans love Speedy.
They literally tried to cancel him, and every Latino and Mexican from here to the border just went, "Oh, fuck you."
I do think his sidekick got quietly retired.
Oh yeah, his
sidekick kind of got quietly retired. He's maybe appears in the background here and there, but other than that, I don't think he's been voiced in decades.
I have been to Tijuana. You go out there, you see cars with Speedy Gonzalez stickers on their windows.
Hell yeah.
They freaking love this character.
Honestly, he's usually a positive character. He's looked at as being a good person the entire time.
That's just it. He's always the hero having to deal with other characters' bullshit. So
yeah, he's basically the south of the border Bugs Bunny. More or less.
Having him being played by Gabriel Iglesias, who is, one of the most famous Latino comedians out there now, is just absolutely a brilliant casting. Yet, they started bashing Speedy Gonzalez online. Gabriel Iglesias posts something to defend the character. And they're just like, no. Stop listening to Gabriel Iglesias now because he's worthless. I'm like, no. Go to hell.
Which is kind of ironic. It's like you're trying to be like, oh, this character, probably a white person, am saying this character is problematic. Here's a Latino actor going, well, actually, no, he's not. And you're like, oh, well, I don't care about your opinion.
Yeah.
The thing about that is a lot of the people that get into those sorts of arguments they're basically like, oh, I can, and this goes back to abusing the cast again. They're like, I can abuse the writers or the actors as much as I want, but if they tell me to go to hell for it, that's because they're attacking the fans and they don't respect their job and they need to be fired. And that's not how it works at all.
No.
Especially if you're attacking them on their personal account on their own time.
It's just one of those things that just annoyed me because, as a kid, Speedy Gonzalez was one of my favorite Warner Brothers characters. Now,
I'd easily say top 5 for me as well.
I mean, I used to do Speedy Gonzalez imitations all the time.
Once in a while.
Especially when trying to get my mother out of bed. It's like, come on, Ma, get up. Arriba, arriba, andale, andale, epa, epa.
Yeah.
And
so your mom probably hated him.
Oh, no, my mom loved him too. Now, because she would do the same thing to me.
Gotcha.
It's just a comeuppance.
Yeah. But, so it was one of my favorite characters. And so, when I see them coming to a movie like this, I'm like, oh, yeah, great. I get to see Speedy. All right. So I don't want to see him canceled. So, and yeah, there are some things that were, typical, like 19th century Mexican and Spanish stereotypes as far as dress style, but
yeah, I'd argue that what he's got on is kind of like maybe a special event dress more often than actual casual dress anymore, but it's just part of the character now.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't have a problem with Pepe Le Pew because usually he gets a comeuppance for what he's doing anyways.
Oh yeah, he's like Skunk Leisure Suit Larry.
Basically.
He keeps failing.
Like I said about Pepe, I forget if it was before we started streaming or during the podcast.
I think it was before.
My only issue with Pepe Le Pew is that audiences have proven time and time again that if a character is a satire of something, they're not going to fucking get it and they're going to emulate the bad. And therefore, I could see like stupid fucking people being like, oh yeah, I'm going to do what Pepe does and harass women.
Except I guarantee you they're going to get a karma comeuppance too for it. Pepe Le Pew is not a person that you should be honoring and completely borrowing from because it is actually a warning that if you do this, something bad's going to happen to you.
Right.
And,
Pepe is his worst enemy.
He's his own worst enemy, literally, yeah. But still, he's a classic Warner Brothers character, and I feel sorry he's not going to be in it.
Yeah, it smacks of BS to me. As much as the Pepe, as much as the Speedy stuff.
Especially since they're letting the Droogs in the movie.
Especially with the Droogs in the movie. Oh, for the love of God.
Yeah. So we've gone on to about
But,
6
but yeah, we
topics
went
of
through
our
like
rants.
5 rants there, so I think we're good.
I mean, well, it's also trying to give us a little bit of bulk in this.
It seems like we all had a lot to get off of our chest.
It's been a lot of stuff in the media lately. Let's just put it that way and leave it there. There's
right.
a lot of
like
BS.
like I said, I blame Twitter for being the worst social media platform ever.
Worse than YouTube?
It doesn't help.
Yeah, worse than I think it's worse than YouTube because, like I said, it's where trolls thrive. I mean, I grudgingly got a Facebook account years ago.
And you still barely touch it.
I still barely touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason you probably have a YouTube account is just so you can watch YouTube and make comments.
Yeah, pretty much. But I have never gotten a Twitter account. I avoid Twitter like the plague. Because everything I hear about Twitter makes me not want to go on Twitter.
Like I said, I have my 2 different Twitters. I have my Twitter where I just post my stuff, and maybe if I see something particularly interesting that grabs my attention, I'll post something to other people. But then I usually go to my other Twitter where it's just accounts that talk about movies and entertainment.
So now we're getting circular. How's the
But yeah.
stopwatch for the summary?
The stopwatch is it's open and waiting. So are we ready to go then?
Yep.
All right, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so the doctor decides to bring Amy and Rory to a place that is supposed to be basically a paradise. And they go out, and it's just a white void and a door. So the doctor and Rory start to go ahead while Amy goes back and looks for her phone. The doctor reminds us that Moffat-era Doctor Who writers do not like people having cell phones. And there's 2 different buttons on the door. The doctor and Rory hit the green anchor button and go through into the door. The door closes. Amy is standing outside. I believe it's the doctor just tells her press the button without specifying which one. And she hits the red waterfall, which is the second button. Not sure what. Actually, there probably is symbolic meaning there. Never mind. So she goes through, and they've realized that they don't see each other. They're instanced in this room, to use an MMO term. Eventually, they realize that there is a large kind of looking glass on the table that they can use to talk to Amy back and forth. Some robots come out and try to talk to the doctor and Rory, distracting them for maybe 20 seconds. When they get back to Amy, they realize it's been a week for her. She's been stuck in that room, unable to go anywhere. Which is how the doctor realizes that that time moves much faster where Amy is. They realize they're in what's a place called 2 Streams, and it is basically a hospice care / quarantine center for a virus that affects 2-hearted organisms. There's probably a better word for that. And that Amy is on the side where the patients check in, and they're on the side where the visitors go. Not sure why it's not labeled, but maybe people in that species understand anchor and waterfall as meaning that. Probably not. Anyway,
Anchor, safe harbor.
Maybe. So the doctor tells Amy that they're going to come rescue her and to go in and make sure that she does not get given any medicine because it will kill her. They go into the TARDIS with the information collected by the sonic screwdriver, and the doctor gives Rory some glasses that he can use to communicate, so since the doctor can't follow or he'll get the virus. Rory goes in, and they realize it's been 36 years, I believe, that Amy has been alone, and she's basically become this survivor, Samurai Jack sort of character, as well as being bitter toward mostly the doctor, but also Rory. They're trying to save young Amy, and old Amy tries to stop them because if they save Amy at the age we expect her to be, that means old Amy will never have existed. However, the 2 Amys talk to each other, and they bond over memories of Rory. They manage to mess with some of the systems and then pull some levers and basically technobabble that doesn't have much logical sense, but it works. and caused the two Amy's to be together in the same room now. At the old Amy causes as the doctor promised to try and save both of them, and he says the TARDIS can maintain the paradox of having them both if he messes around with it a bit. They get stopped by a bunch of the robots that have been trying to give her medicine for 36 years, causing a big fight to ensue. The young Amy gets tranquilized. Rory goes to bring her to the TARDIS, and then the TARDIS door is closed, and the doctor reveals that he was lying about being able to sustain the paradox. Old Amy realizes this and goes back in to face her fate with the robots, and then they take off. The end.
4 minutes, 10 seconds.
That
All
went
right.
longer than I anticipated it. I knew it would be short enough not to need notes, but I didn't think I'd be hitting quite so many plot points until I started talking.
This happens.
All right, so let's talk about what we liked about the episode. And Thomas, you are first again this week.
Oh. You know what? Yeah, I'll just go with it. The sort of kind of really call it old age makeup, but like the aging makeup job on for Amy. It's just like, holy shit, that's actually really good. And it's one of those funny things where it's like, okay, so you were able to do this here and it was great. So why in Angels Take Manhattan are they trying to be like, oh wow, we're like, so much older that like Amy needs glasses to read, but they couldn't even give her like subtle makeup. It's a it's like it's one of those funny things where it's like, wow, this is so good. So why did you fuck it up later in other stories?
All right, Matt.
Journal, good overall thing. There wasn't a good overall thing, so I'm just trying to think of which one I want to go with. You know what? Set design was actually pretty decent on this one. There's enough variants that didn't all feel like the same bloody corridor, but there was enough similar between bits here and there that it felt like it was properly connected. And then you've got the little bits of like gradient stuff that she learns to use in order to protect herself. So you got some of the stuff that you just start to see in the background about mid-episode suddenly become things that are literally dangling in the foreground.
All right.
Little touches like that. Most of this, as far as I can tell, all this was on set except for maybe 1 or 2 bits. So yeah, generally pretty good set design.
Bill.
I liked the concept of medical robots who are kind of confused, trying to do their best to save this patient and provide, palliative care. But instead, it becomes kind of warped into this survival horror situation because the medicine is incompatible. I think it's a good counter to a lot of Doctor Who stories. They just show up to an alien planet, breathe the air, drink the water, eat the food at no risk and no concern for their lives. And this really points out, alien planets are alien planets.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think I liked the emotional content of this episode. It tended to pull your emotions in various directions. And it did a very good job of that between the writing and the directing. I had others issues with it, which I will talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, what did we dislike about this episode? Thomas, you're up.
God.
Quite the storm we're brewing over here.
God, I feel like I had something, but I'm blanking now. It's really annoying. It's also one of those detriments of this is one where I only rewatched it the once, so it's like grasping at straws. Oh,
If you want, you can pass, and
yeah,
we can come back
I'll
to you
just
later
pass
if
for
you
now.
come up with
Yeah,
something. Okay,
yeah, I'll just pass for now.
Matt.
General thing I didn't like. I have to say there are elements of the older Amy's character that just kind of seem to not click right. Like, I understand some of her reasons for disliking characters is because of being abandoned for so long, but then she very, very easily lets things slide too. So it's just like some consistency of the character seems a bit off.
Mm,
All
But
right,
then again, I'm also going to say that maybe if you were going to fix that, you would probably need a second episode.
yeah.
Bill.
I guess coming into that, something jogged my memory, and it's like, while I could kind of get Amy being able to like figure out how to game the system and that in the decade she's been in there, I don't quite buy her making her own sonic device necessarily.
Oh, that's one too, yeah.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
like, okay, that's a bit of a stretch versus her
Unless
being
somehow
belonging.
literally the technology was sitting right there somewhere.
Right. I would have gotten it better if they were like, if she was like, oh, I stole it and I kind of repurposed it from a larger thing to a handheld. She's like, no, I made it. I was like, you're not an engineer.
Yeah.
You're not an engineer, and you have, while you've seen the doctor's tech, you really haven't, you know.
Studied it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It seems that it seems a little too Mary Sue.
Now, if it was Nardole, maybe.
Well, Narl has the
If
excuse he's
it
a
was
robot himself.
Right.
if it was
Yeah.
Nissa,
Right.
Oh, if
Right.
it's
Right.
Nissa,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because that's a character that's been built up for something like that.
if
Yeah.
it was Nissa or Romana
Mm-hmm.
or
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
somebody that has that alien knowledge enough to do it, but
Mm.
Amy is just a 21st century Earth
Mhm.
girl when it comes to it. When it comes to knowledge of
She's got
technology.
go get done attitude, but that's not going to
And
get
not
her
one
to that tech.
not one that's particularly STEM inclined either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just does not make sense.
Mm.
It's one of those things that really bothers me about the Moffat era,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
because if Clara had been in the same situation, it probably would have happened too. Is they make the characters a lot more versatile than they should be.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So I'm next, right?
Yep.
Believe so, yeah.
So for mine, I'm going to say that considering this is a species that's so alien that they don't understand that aliens might have visited their planet or there might be one-hearted organisms there, to the point that they even reject the concept when it's presented to them and say, was it statement declined or something.
Reject.
The fact that when they get to this this paradise area, it kind of just looks like a fancy garden on Earth. Like the architecture is normal, uh, nothing special about it. Like it's all common variety stuff, which would pretty much be on nitpick territory until you realize that one of the main props used in the fight scene is a replica of the fucking Mona Lisa.
Not
Mhm.
only that, but one of the locations they mentioned that they had a copy of was from an interstellar Disneyland.
I did not hear that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It was Disneyland Clom, and
oh, Clum, of course.
but that would still mean that they knew of Disneyland, which means that that they had ties to Earth.
Which would mean that
Mm.
they should be aware that, other aliens that have different biology could be coming through, and that they would need, even if there was a quarantine issue, that they wouldn't just be like, oh yeah, we're going to strap you down and give you medicine that doesn't fit your system.
Yeah, seriously, I am not there. I'm an alien. Scan me. And they would have said, "Oh, you don't have a binary vascular system."
That's what it is. Yeah.
Shit.
Now, it would have been funny if they had scanned the Doctor and just assumed that they were all Time Lords.
And yeah, that would have been fine.
Except that he never got scanned once.
Yeah.
Right.
I believe, yeah, only the humans got scanned. So you would have thought
The
one of
doctor
them would have
mentioned
noticed.
They were aliens, and it was instantly rejected because of the quarantine.
Yeah.
It's either, it's either the world's worst programming or the world's worst writing.
Mm-hmm.
Lazy writing.
People. Yeah.
Although I wonder, given some of the classic Who stories, and given the fact that we never actually see an alien, if the entire species was killed off by this virus and this is all that's left.
That's quite possible.
That's quite possible, and then maybe an excuse would be that the robots have gone defective over time. But then they would have to explain that, and they never do.
Right.
That's kind of an Aperture Science scenario.
Aperture Science.
Is there any more, Bill?
That was it for my dislike.
Okay, so my dislike is the ending. Just because it's kind of very bastardly. Because the Doctor easily caves to the demand that older Amy go with them. He doesn't try to argue or debate it down at all. And then at the end it's just like, no, I lied.
And then he kind of proves right every bad thing she had to say about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I remember we've had people we've talked to outside of the show where they're like, they don't care for the Doctor because some of the bad things characters have to say about him kind of come true once in a while.
I think that was kind of that left a bad taste in my mouth the first time I watched the episode, and I was like, really? Like, the Doctor's really the bastard in this episode.
Yeah, it left a bad taste in my mouth the first time I watched it back when it first came out, and it left a bad taste in my mouth this time because I loved the episode up until that point.
Yeah.
And
there's
then
a lot to like about it.
And then it just 180s me because of, how much of a lying asshole he becomes in this.
I think it would have worked a little better is if older Amy had kind of come to that conclusion by herself and then still chose to make the sacrifice to give her younger self a different life.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in least favorite scenes because I have an alternative.
Gotcha.
That would have made all of my issues with this go away.
I might have to disdain until Randy's then on that part because I have some similar ideas too.
Okay, favorite scenes. Thomas.
There's a few. Let's see. I think I will go with that's the first time I've laughed in 36 years.
That's a nice one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just
Better
like
than a Fez. All right, Matt.
Remember when he got that really ugly haircut and he was trying to be part of a rock band and he was shit every time?
Okay, yeah, that was mine too. That the Amy talks to Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because that was a very emotional scene. I really liked that. Bill?
I didn't have a backup planned.
What was yours?
I was gonna say the Amy talks to Amy and kind of rekindles her feelings from the past, and they bond over Rory.
Yeah, that was that. I think three of us agree that was the best scene of them all.
Probably. Should I give up a bonus one then?
Sure. Especially if Randy doesn't come back.
when the TARDIS lands the second time, Roy walks onto that little art gallery. Yeah, you see him only, so you see the weird art thing at the end, and then he just looks over and there's that thing. It's basically a tube with
alien.
like this weird goose
Exactly,
lying down the
yeah.
outside of it. It's like,
You
what
know, the thing
even
is, my
is
brain's
that?
going Earth, alien, very alien.
Earth, slightly less Earth, alien, extremely alien. What even? Never mind.
Although that kind of goes along with my dislike from earlier.
Yeah, it does. But
The idea that they clearly have access to alien
Yeah,
civilization.
it still does hammer home the fact that there's some weird writing on this one.
so, least favorite scene.
I guess I'll go with, honestly, while the ending doesn't bother me as much, the roundabout multimodal reflection sorting levels of techno babble the Doctor spouts to be like, oh, if I do XYZ, you know,
Oh, and he says like jettison the
whatever.
karaoke room or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. And it's just like, oh, well, if I do all these things, maybe it'll work. It's like, you know.
Oh, yeah, he was completely bullshitting.
Right.
Yeah.
And that would have been an interesting hint, whereas like why would you need to jettison the karaoke room to cause some sort of time effect when this isn't adding extra
And,
space?
you know,
Mhm.
I guess my actual, even now that I think about it, my actual problem is that the other characters can't tell that he's very clearly bullshitting. When he's not very subtle about the fact that it's like, maybe it's like, you would think that at least old Amy, like Rory's kind of clueless, but you would think that older Amy would be like,
I can
okay,
tell
yeah,
when
he's
he's
basically
bullshitting.
saying no.
I can clearly tell now when he's bullshitting.
It's a little that he's clueless, but I think it's even more that he doesn't like. This isn't the shit he's interested in. They kind of hammer that point home. He's only on the TARDIS because he wants to spend time with Amy, and that for no other reason. He's like he's pre Danny Pink, except a bit more likable.
Way more likable.
Yeah.
Yeah, the technobabble didn't mind me too much.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
technobabble didn't mind me too much. The ridiculousness of how easy it is to cross two timelines in the building, though, is pretty silly.
that actually didn't bother me either. It was more the fact that they could do it and keep the TARDIS functioning. Let's remember that way back in Here Comes the Drums, the Master rebuilt the TARDIS into a paradox machine. And that allowed the aliens from the future to start coming back and killing their ancestors. So that kind of paradox has been done in Doctor Who. The thing is, it completely fucked the TARDIS. So here's the Doctor going, oh yeah, I can just do this by doing this, and this.
Well, they have to wish really hard. That solves everything in a Moffat story. And this isn't a Moffat script, but it's clearly inspired by a lot of Moffat ideology.
Yeah, you need to clap your hands so we can do this. And anybody that's ever seen a Peter Pan play knows what I'm talking about.
Keep clapping. Keep clapping.
Okay. So, Matt, how about you? Least favorite scene?
Oh, is there anything else I can think of other than the elephant in the room?
Okay, if you want to wait for mine to tack on to.
I said that earlier. I'm just trying to think really quick if there's anything else really quick I can tack on for a scene I didn't like. Well, actually, I just kind of mentioned it. The whole, let's just swap the green one and the blue one. Whatever you do, don't touch the yellow.
Oh, that's standard wiring. That's just reversing the polarity of the neutron flow.
Except I didn't do it without saying the catchphrase, so I could declare it lame. Worst reverse to the polarity ever?
Okay, Bill, how about you?
So I was kind of pissed off by the opening because it kind of makes the story into an idiot plot. Because when you see two strange buttons on a world that you don't know what's going on and you don't know what they do, and you're telling somebody, your traveling partner, to press the button and come in with you, you'd think you'd pay a little bit of attention to which button it is and tell her the right one. And on the other hand, if you were in that situation of pressing the button, you'd think you would have the foresight to ask which one.
Or the courtesy to wait.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, that too. Just fucking don't go on without her would have solved all the problems.
Yeah, that is a thing where it's like Amy's not that dumb. She would have at least said which one. She would have seen that there were two and gone, wait, what?
and
Which
even
one?
Even then, you come out into basically what seems to be a room with an elevator button.
Hmm.
And that's essentially what it is, because it's two buttons, one right above each other. Normally your brain goes up and down. So you're thinking elevator. Are you going to, while your friend is just going to grab something, get in the elevator and go to the 7th floor without telling them, hey, we're going to the 7th floor?
right.
Yeah.
Or are you going to wait the additional 30 seconds it's going to take them to get there,
And
so you can all climb in the elevator and go to the 7th floor?
also on top of
Hmm.
that, we were just talking about the only reason Rory is on the TARDIS is because to spend time with Amy. Do you think he would rather go ahead with the doctor or wait 5 seconds for Amy to find her phone?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's
I think he'd rather wait for Amy.
Yeah. I will say there's an easy fix to get around it but still have them separated, is that yeah, it's still a bit weird that Rory would go ahead, but he tells her which button, she presses it, it doesn't work. It didn't work, I'll try the other one. She goes in, whoops. And it's like, okay. Like maybe it's like, well, people have already entered, so you've got to enter through this one. Like she doesn't have a choice as opposed to just haphazardly choosing the wrong one.
I had a thought for this one's for Randy. You realize that this means that essentially they pulled a Barry.
true. Went ahead without the party, or at this point, the party went ahead without the rest. Yeah. Okay.
Literally pulled a Barry, and Barry's gonna go wander off alone and die.
Yeah. Okay.
Our gaming group, for those that don't know.
So
It's funny because if anyone's the tank in this party, it's definitely Amy. If anyone should be going ahead, it's her.
So are we up to me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So my least favorite scene is, like I said, the entire second part of the final act. And it could have been fixed in so many ways. They're desperately trying to get Amy to the TARDIS, and older Amy could have seen this and had her last stand against the robots there while Rory's trying to get her after Amy's knocked unconscious, as an act of self-sacrifice, and that would have fixed the entire rest of the episode.
Oh yeah, that would have
Because it
actually
would
been
have
really
made the
easy fix.
self-sacrifice her choice, not the doctor being an asshole.
Right.
But instead, they chose the doctor to be an asshole. To deliberately went, I lied.
Which it does make sense to have the doctor be an asshole sometimes, but usually that's a plot point in the story. The doctor's an asshole, he's called out on it and reflects on it, or he's an asshole and that's why someone stops traveling with the TARDIS. In this case, he's just an asshole, betrays a copy of one of his friends, and there's no consequences.
Yeah, I mean, if I was Amy and Rory, I would have been, no, this is at least Rory, I would have been, okay, no, I'm done.
And he says he doesn't want to travel with the doctor anymore. Granted, he's pissed off at the moment, but there's no follow through on that. And I think it would have made sense for there to be, even if he was the only one who remembered that scene deeply, because obviously young Amy wasn't there and the doctor didn't see what he did wrong. I feel like Rory would have really been like, I probably don't want to do this anymore.
And this is the same doctor who a season ago had to make a choice where he would have had to been an asshole, and he said that if he had to, the next day he would have woken up and not been able to call himself the Doctor anymore. That would have been the end of The Beast Below for the rest of you, if you don't remember.
Right.
I mean, it's that same kind of moral choice where he's absolutely heartbroken over it in The Beast Below. Here, he just arbitrarily makes it and doesn't seem to feel any real moral repercussion on it. And in fact, throws that on Rory, which is even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Another way I thought of that you could also rewrite this is that maybe both the Doctor and Rory get stuck in the TARDIS stores trying to keep them open, but the TARDIS closes itself off before older Amy can get inside, and the Doctor just literally goes, I can't do enough to make the TARDIS accept you. It does not want to do this.
Yeah, even
To
that.
literally take it completely out of their hands. And as much as I don't even care for that, at least it would make more sense.
On a related note, you reminded me, when I went and I started my rewatch, I had actually apparently repressed the ending of this episode to the extent that what I thought happened was that both Amy's walk through the doorway and older Amy disappears because of the paradox. That's what I had convinced myself was the ending of this episode.
That also would have made sense and would have been less douchebaggery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if that had happened where at the second Amy went through the TARDIS door, older Amy immediately vanished, and the Doctor just went, I'm sorry, that it couldn't be done.
Or also another idea I had was that she actually gets to the police stores and she actually just, without even letting the others answer for what's going on, she just goes, I knew this was going to happen anyways, immediately turns back and goes back to that fight with the robots too.
Even there, at that point, you've already proven the Doctor's an asshole.
Well, without that, this is without even having anything blocking her off. She literally just gets to the point where she can enter the TARDIS if she wants to, and then immediately turns back and goes, yeah, I knew this was I knew that I was going to not be able to make it anyways. It was just blind hope, and this goes back to trying to defend them as they're trying to get ready to go.
I still like my concept because at that point she dies. She dies, quote, a hero. Redeems herself.
The point being is that there's literally dozens of ways you could go about this differently and not make the characters look like they're not the characters anymore, and make it so they're not looking like absolutely horrible, wretched people that you question why you're following the show to begin with.
I mean, you got to remember, this is the season that turned me where I started to hate Moffat.
Oh, I think this is the season that will a lot of us turn, because I think this is the first time I managed to will myself to sit through this episode.
I mean, this is the latter half of Series 6, and I remember you both mentioned that around this point you had either already stopped watching the show before we met and started watching it again, or were in the process of stopping.
I was never in the process of stopping. This is the point. I started to get angry during season 5.
Right, I was going to say, I think one of you said you watched Series 5 and then stopped watching and didn't watch Series 6.
That was Matt.
That was Matt, okay.
That was me. I got to a point with 11th Doctor where I just went, no, I had enough of this bullshit, and stopped for a while.
I kept watching. I started to get angry during Series 5, especially with River Song. And the whole Pandorica Opens just kind of went me. But this particular series is when I started to actively hate Moffat. Because, first of all, the overall theme for this particular series was, yay, River Song, love her, River Song.
Well, Okay, we're changing
But
the name of the show. It's no longer Doctor Who. It's now The Adventures of River Song.
yeah, pretty much.
Kill
But
me.
save for the Doctor's Wife, which is the best episode of this entire series,
Mm-hmm.
the rest of this series was either mediocre or pissed me off.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of this episode was actually the few questionable
And
writing things here, but yeah.
yeah, and up until the final portion of this episode, I had loved this episode. I was just like, yes, thank you.
Yeah, there's questionable nitpicks to have here and there in this story, and then this ending, just like, oh,
Yeah,
wow. Well,
yeah.
I understand, but at the same time, also, fuck you.
Yeah. So you remember I was in almost a frothing rage when we started this podcast
Mm-hmm.
years ago, almost a decade ago.
Asylum
And
of the
that was coming
Daleks.
off of this season and shit like this, where it would get my hopes up and then kick me in the nuts.
Oh, and let's see what the latest new season did to us. Oh, wait.
Okay. So let's move on to final thoughts. Okay, because my spleen has been mostly vented now.
This is an episode that, I mean, it's interesting because I think this is possibly only the second time I've ever seen this. And I will admit, like Bill, I did kind of misremember the ending, to where I did think that older Amy did end up in the TARDIS briefly. And just sort of either in my head, I thought she'd like keeled over and died just by virtue of the paradox.
I find
Like
it
the
amusing that you
paradox
guys didn't
actively-
just forget what the ending was. You literally rewrote it in your brains.
Repressed it. You
Yeah.
repressed it.
I mean, there's so many The Girl Who episodes as well that I was like, so wait, which one's this? by title alone. But yeah, Moffat seemed to love that naming convention, The Girl Who blank. But yeah, like
The Man Who Fell to Earth.
But yeah, I like this episode still. There are things that are like, okay, if this and this were changed, it would probably flow a lot better, and there's some inconsistent characterization. But the most part, I still think it's a good episode. It's just that certain drawbacks stop it from being a great episode in my mind. But I still think it's worth checking out.
All right, Matt.
3/4 of this episode, and this is my first time seeing this episode, by the way. 3/4 of this episode is really good with some minor, I would change this, or I might have changed that, until you hit that last like 5 to 10 minutes of the ending, and then it's just like, okay, and this is where we need to rewrite everything from this page back. Yeah, there's a lot to like here, but then it's just very last minute heel turns on you, and yeah, this is kind of reminding me why I nearly very much completely stopped watching Doctor Who for a while. The only reason I'm still going is because of this podcast.
Anything else, Matt?
That about covers most of it for me here in shorthand.
Hey, Bill.
So this episode is very funny, just looking at it thematically. If they're talking about the whole like aging thing and all the TARDIS weirdness, it kind of seems like it should be set before Let's Kill Hitler, like as if it were kind of like a way of like introducing concepts so that Let's Kill Hitler makes a little more sense. But at the same time, like with Melody being adult already and such, but at the same time, the whole thing about like it centering on loving Rory as the solution for everything makes it feel like it should be in series 5. And of course, that's I think an ongoing issue with the Moffat era, where it stagnates on this one plot point from series 5 and never moves on past it. But yeah, as we said with this episode, it has a lot of really interesting concepts. The whole time moving faster, the whole psychological effects, the whole would I kill myself to save a younger version of me that has the potential to live the life I wanted to live. A lot of really interesting ideas and questions, but just not really greatly executed. And I would say it could have used more passes on the editor's table. But given how many Moffatisms are in it, I think it got a few passes on the editor's table, but they had the wrong takeaway. They inserted more Moffat instead of just kind of refining the script and fixing things that didn't really make sense or helping things make more sense. So in the end, this is one of those episodes where when I watch it, I end up disliking it. And then there's enough positive about it that I kind of confuse myself afterward as to what it was that I disliked about it. And then the ending reminds me. And that's about it.
Okay. So while there's some nitpicks in the first 2.5 acts, it's mostly forgivable. Yes, it has some Moffatisms, but I kind of forgive that because this is the Moffat era, and that's kind of how that a lot of it works. But it also had a lot of emotional content and was building up to kind of a feel-good ending, which would have given a positive spin to it until it completely 180s in that final act. And instead you wind up ending the episode actively disliking your protagonists, which is a bad thing.
2 of the 3, I say.
Yeah, 2 of the 3. And in particular, your main protagonist, who was basically proven to be a lying, cheating bastard. This is not good for continued viewership of a series, and is against the character that you've come to know over the course of the last 5 seasons. So why they didn't edit that out and change it, I don't know, except I don't think Moffat was caring enough, except for adding his signature to it. This is one of the reasons Moffat needed a separate script editor. Not everyone can be the complete and total showrunner, and this shows it.
While working on Sherlock.
And because of that, I dislike this episode. It actually makes me angry and disappointed in the show. All right, let's rate this. Thomas is going to give it at least somewhat of a positive rating, apparently, because he liked it.
I'll say this much: the drawbacks pull it back from what I probably would have initially given it, but I also don't feel like I can go too low either, so this gets at least a 4 from me.
That's very generous, in my opinion. Okay. So, Matt.
See, before the last portion of this episode, it would have landed at about 4. There's some stuff that makes it a little meh, but it's livable, and there's some great character moments. However, that last act ruins the episode so badly for me, it's getting a 3.
Bill.
So my first inclination is to give it a 3. I do think some of the emotional moments are just good enough to put it on that side of 3.5.
And whereas I feel the opposite, that last half act ruins all the forward momentum that you've got from the first 2.5 acts. It kills it flat. I cannot watch that, especially now knowing where the episode is going. Instead, it just kind of fills me with dread and pain. And because of that, it ruins the rewatchability of this episode. And it ruins my enjoyment. I'm trying to give this a 2.5. I want to. I'm not sure I can. That's how much this episode disappoints me by that ending.
Now, grant you, I'm giving it a 3.0, and this is my first time actually seeing through this episode, so maybe repeat viewings might change my opinion to a negative, too.
I have to give it a 2. It actually, I'm sorry, it pisses me off.
So, funny note, that's the second time this season you've given it 2, and both of those times, I was not the Debbie Downer, you were.
Yes, I know.
It does
But
happen.
we know the other reason I gave something a 2 was because of it was a frickin' PSA.
Right.
This is the
Yeah.
first time I gave this a 2 because the content was actively annoying.
Oh, yeah.
Because, yeah,
At the very end of the content of this particular story literally just warped it from a 4 to a, oh god, no. 3.
yeah.
3 at best.
And
That's
yeah,
being
I can tell
generous.
you, until you hit that bump, I was probably looking at giving this a 4.5. That's how much that last half, because it completely destroyed the integrity of the main characters, caused me to drop it 2.5 points. Because my enjoyment went from very much enjoying it to not enjoying it at all. And then my characterization went through the floor immediately, so it lost 2 whole points there. Oh, it just, this episode, because of that, just ruins it for me. And with everything averaged, and Thomas being giving it such an uppercase, actually says Matt is right,
Oh.
as it averages out to a 3.1. I know, what the fuck, right? A 3.1 will put it at 322 out of 384 things reviewed. So it's pretty much down there. It is on par with The Sea Devils, Planet of Fire, Survival, The Romans, The Invasion of the Dinosaurs, Asylum of the Daleks, which
Ooh! We referenced that earlier.
Yep.
Vincent and the Doctor,
Ooh!
Which we also referenced earlier.
Cold War, and The Rings of Akaton. It is better than The Wheel in Space, The End of Time, The Beast Below, Deep Breath, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, The Lazarus Experiment, etc. But not as good as Arc of Infinity, Robot, The Pandorica Opens, Big Bang, The Underwater Menace, and Planet of the Giants. So there we are.
This.
Once again, 322 out of 384 things reviewed. That is all we have to say about The Girl Who Waited.
So please tell us in the comments, what do you think of the episode, and which of this this pretty good variety of scores we gave it do you agree with, or do you think it's a 1 or a 5, which are the 2 scores we didn't touch. Don't forget to like or dislike the video, and of course subscribe and ring the bell to keep getting our YouTube exports, or follow us on Twitch to see our streams every Wednesday night.
All right, so next week we move on to the final episode we are rating this season, and our penultimate episode of the season. We are going to finish this section of Series 6 and review The God Complex, written by Toby Whithouse and starring Matt Smith as the Doctor, Karen Gillan as Amy Pond, and Arthur Darvill as Rory Williams. We will see you next week.
I think The Girl Who Waited was waiting for a better script.